Welcome. My name is Yarrow, and you're listening to the Daydreaming Wars podcast. So, I've changed my name and I wanted to record a new intro to let you all know. I can tell you a whole long story about it, but I think the short version is that I was just feeling like making a new start and taking on a new name that feels better and more authentic to me. So, yeah, thank you so much for being with me through that change. I also wanted to send a really big thank you to all of you. The podcast has grown massively this year, and it's been really beautiful to have so many new listeners on the show. So thank you so much for sharing and loving it, and for listening. Really, yeah. I'm recording this on the 30th of January in 2018, so the blue moon is coming up tomorrow, and it's also an eclipse, which I'm incredibly excited about. And so this episode is a really special one, in which I had the incredible honor of having my friend Vanessa Sage on the show to talk about reading the tarot for ourselves and for other people, and really working with the cards intuitively. So yeah, that's my special treat. I really hope you like it and that you get something out of it. And I hope that wherever you are in life, in the world, in your body, that you're feeling the magic of the blue moon coming up tomorrow, and that you're well and happy and supported. One last little plug. You might have already heard about it. I'm running a Patreon now, which is supporting the show and its running costs. And it's a really beautiful platform. I'm so into it. And I've reached my first goal of having 20 Patreons, which again, I'm really grateful for. And it also means that I'm starting to run free webinars. So yeah, the exchange idea is that you can pledge $3 or more, and you will receive a monthly ritual kit. The one for February that's going out in the next couple of days is all about self-romance. So I'm sharing tarot spreads and little spells and some rituals that you can do for yourself, and some herbal recipes as well. I really, really love this work, and I really love sharing it, and I wanted to create like a low-cost, long-term way of creating a beautiful container for that. Yeah, if you want to pledge more, you can also receive monthly readings from me, which can be a really beautiful way of taking care of yourself. So check that out at patreon.com/Sarah Magdalena Love. And now finally on today's show. Bye. Hey everyone, I have the special honor to have my friend Vanessa Sage on the show for the second time today. And I will point all of you back to episode number 9 if you haven't listened to that yet. Vanessa is an amazing teacher, and we shared a lot about her backstory in that episode. So this is really juicy as well. But today we're recording this episode for the incredible, fantastic, and magical blue moon that's coming up. And we would love to talk to you about tarot magic, how we got into the tarot, how we're choosing decks, how we're approaching the cards, all these kinds of really beautiful things. And yeah, I really hope you get a lot out of it. And so just to tell you briefly how I met Vanessa, mainly by magic, that's what I would say. We met on Instagram initially, and about 2 years ago, I joined her Priestess program. I've been studying with her since, which has been a really, really beautiful experience. And there's been a lot of synchronicity in that, some of which I'm not ready to tell you about, but it's really exciting. And I will tell you about in future episodes, because I'm renaming myself, and Vanessa kind of guessed my name before I told her, which was really cool. And yeah, so there's been a lot of beauty and magic. I really love being part of her communities. I feel really inspired by her approach and what she shares. She's a brilliant writer, and so I am just happy to have her on the show again. And I will hand it over to her now so she can more officially introduce herself.
Oh, I'm just so happy to be here, Sarah. It's funny because I love that we met on Instagram. Because it's one of those connections that has been so meaningful to me for so many years. Um, I just absolutely adore you, and I'm just yeah. It's just it's a wonderful thing to be here in conversation with you. Um, so I have a PhD in anthropology, cultural anthropology. For a big part of my career, I was an anthropologist of religion, and I also became really interested in everyday life and the sacred in everyday life, and that kind of became a dissertation on an art scene in the place that I was living. Um, and now, although I have a feeling I've always been meant to do this and have probably always been doing it, I do lead a Priestess program, and I read tarot, and I'm just starting a tarot school, and I also help spiritual entrepreneurs and coaching them.
Yay! Yes, you do so many things, and I love how they tie together. That feels very authentic and beautiful. And I've really loved seeing your business unfold over the years as well. Yeah, cool. So I was thinking that maybe we could start this conversation a little bit by talking about how we found the decks that we currently really love and which decks particularly we really love. And maybe we can also share some tips for people to find their own decks, because that's a question that I get a lot, and it's kind of a really good starting point, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah, so I mean, I met my first deck in 1990,
Woo!
and I was 15,
Mhm.
and I met like a, cooler, older high school, in high school, right? And she was into tarot, and I just thought that was so cool. And so she took me to this tarot shop. And at that time, like I don't think the internet was really a thing at that point, and you couldn't buy your decks online or search and that kind of stuff. At least it wasn't part of my life. And so I went into this shop, and I just saw these decks, and she told me I needed a Rider Waite.
Mhm.
But I don't really like the Rider Waite. So I picked the Hanson Roberts, and it's this like medieval kind of clone. And that was the deck that I used for a long time, years and years. So it was the deck I learned on, and I pretty much never really use it anymore, except for nostalgia's sake.
Mm.
Um, and then I kind of found Tarot of the Old Path, which was it was lighter. It has a kind of Wiccan feel, but there's also a lot of plants in it, and it has a white background and just really light, and felt like a bit of a breath of fresh air.
Mhm.
Um, and then so they're just talking about the early decks, and then the other early deck was the Druidcraft Tarot.
Mm.
That kind of real earthy feel, that felt like a coming home to me.
Mhm.
Um, and I don't know, I am a deck collector, so I have a lot of decks.
Mhm.
Um, right now, my soul decks are the Gaian Tarot.
Mhm.
Um, I just so appreciate the Gaian Tarot for the way in which, it works with the elements. It's diverse.
Mhm.
It whenever I read with it, I just know,
Mhm.
like I know it so well. And it
Mhm.
also kind of brings the tarot into this life. So
Yeah.
I love that. I love it for that. I'm just looking here. The Two of Earth is, I know you can't see this on the podcast, but it's a parent with two screaming kids in a grocery store.
Mhm.
And that card is all about balance and finding
Mhm.
balance in the chaos. And what a perfect depiction of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And my current deck crush is the Mesquite Tarot.
Yeah, I saw that. It's so soft.
So soft, so gentle. The colors are soft. It's small. I like that it's tiny too, because then I can do bigger spreads.
Mhm.
Um, because sometimes space can limit you with
Yeah.
spreads, and it just speaks to me. And it's very simple, so it brings the imagery down to the basics,
Mhm.
and then in that simplicity, there's so much space that opens up.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it feels like a very, very soothing
Mm.
space. amazing. Yeah, I can't get enough of it at the moment. How about
Absolutely.
you?
I don't, yeah, I'm really jealous of, is it called Macree? Is that what it is? This really,
Mesquite.
wow, mosquito. Okay, yeah, I'm a
Yeah.
bit jealous. I wouldn't call myself a deck collector because I travel a lot, and so when people order readings from me, I let them choose the deck that they want me to use, and I simply cannot travel with that many. So I kind of I have 4 decks at the moment, all of which I really love, and then I have one Oracle deck, which is the Vessel, by Mary Evans, who's also been on a show. And in terms of which I love, I'm just looking at them over now, which you can't see, but one that I'm really in love with is the Divina Tarot deck by Mary Evans, because the cards are very small, and like you said, I find that really really easy and practical and beautiful, and I can create bigger spreads without kind of my desk feeling too cramped. And also it's just black and white, and sometimes when I feel kind of I don't want the intensity of a lot of color and lots of stuff going on, it's a really simple and comforting deck to turn to, I feel. And I think there's real magic in that simplicity, and I love the book as well. And then also on a practical level, I really love decks that have a good box with them, because I travel so much, or because I love taking them to bed or like carrying them around. I usually always have one with me. And so the Divina is really great for that, because it has this small sturdy box, and the book goes into the box as well. So there's kind of not too much to take care of. And then I have the Fountain Tower, which I really love because it's just visually so stunning. I mean, the artwork is just out of this world. It's
Yes,
incredible.
it's incredible.
Yes, and
Yeah.
I think that it was a really great deck for me to also really study the cards and learn a lot more, because the descriptions in the book are so great, and they offer keywords. And we can talk about this a little bit more later. I really don't think that people need to learn all the meanings or like do the keyword thing necessarily, but the guidebook of the Fountain Tarot was really kind of giving me some words that I hadn't had before, and that was really valuable. And then I have the Wild Unknown, which I really love for its like brightness, and it feels really, really modern and quite light. Do not a love and light only kind of deck. There's definitely shadow aspects, and they feel really authentic and good and true. And I love this deck because it doesn't have humans in it, and sometimes I find that very helpful to just leave the human world behind for a moment and all the baggage that it brings, and to just like connect with animals and plants feels really cool. And then finally, my latest addition is the Next World Tower, which is just blowing my mind in so many ways. I mean, yeah, where do I even start? It's so beautiful. I mean, the art is incredible. The writing is just blowing my mind, and I think it's really filling a gap that I was feeling, because it touches on so many things I deeply care about politically, and also it just has so much diversity in it. So it's mainly queers of color. There's disabled people. There's sex workers. There's older people in it, and it also has these beautiful background drawings of kind of scenes of the revolution, which I find really encouraging and beautiful. Sorry, I'm looking over the screen because I'm looking at the text. um so and that book I think is also really powerful for me to work with. The only thing I find with this deck is the cards are incredibly huge. They're way bigger than my hands, and I didn't like the box very much, so I now have it in a little drawstring bag, and the book is separately, and that's totally fine. But it's not a deck I carry around with me, because it's also just so precious to me. It's sold out really quickly, so I'm like looking after it, like it's very close to my heart. This is definitely not a travel deck to me. That's more what I do with the Divina deck, which comes in a sturdy box. So yeah, these are my decks at the moment. I don't think I want to add a lot. I want to keep it simple, but I'm very intrigued by the very soft one that you just shared about. I had seen that before and felt a bit jealous.
Well, the book doesn't come in the box, but it has a little box and a little bag.
Um,
It's like a
very-
good travel. I'm waiting for my Next World Tarot. Um,
mm.
yeah, it's shipped. I'm just waiting.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. May it come any day. Should we maybe also share what we would love for people to know who are thinking about buying the first deck and they're not really sure what to look for, what would you tell them?
I would tell them to choose a deck that speaks to them. That
Mm-hmm.
when they see it, they feel warm inside or lit up or
Mm-hmm.
somehow like just like their heart is full.
Mm-hmm.
Um, a lot of the advice is you need a writer or a Rider-Waite Smith because that's a way to learn, and it is absolutely a way to learn. And so, but I think that's something that happens later. You know,
Mm-hmm.
um, I think one of the things that I find somewhat disheartening is when people have this idea of easy and hard decks. Like there's advanced decks and then there's simpler decks, and I just don't think that that's true. Like Wild Unknown was known as a difficult deck
Mm-hmm.
for a long time. And, I think one of the things that deck did was it brought tarot to a completely new generation and a bunch of people who never would have picked it up. That's a really good thing
Mm-hmm.
because it spoke to people. And you see that happening more and more and more. So that's my advice. Now if you want to learn like the meanings and things like that, then yeah, having some kind of writer Waite Smith or clone is a good thing just to.
Mm-hmm.
But um but yeah, really pick a deck that really speaks to you.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I would say, yeah, really choose one that speaks to you and that you feel is representing your life experience and your identity in some way.
Yes.
And of course, it has to be visually pleasing. And I would also recommend that people check out the writing of the author and see if that resonates, because that can be, especially if you're trying to work with the book, and that's a main source of inspiration that you do want, then I think it's important that you resonate with the writing. And yeah, and then the size. I mean, this is not something I used to think was very important, but now that I have such extremely different sized decks, I feel like if I had just one, I'd really like to think about the size of cards that I want. That would be important to me. Yeah.
Yeah, I have one deck that is too big for me. I have only
Mm,
one deck, and it makes me a little sad because
mm,
it's just way too big. I don't know how to handle it. And I don't really want to trim it. So
mm,
I do trim a lot of decks, but I don't really want to trim this one. Although I suppose as I'm sitting here talking to you, I should probably just trim it so I can use it because it's not going to get used the way it is.
mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Project for later.
Yes. Deck trim. Cool. Um, Something that we also talk a lot about both in the group and like when you and I chat is this idea that you can make a tarot reading, like a simple three-card reading, into like a whole ceremony and ritual for yourself. And I really love that idea. And at the same time, something we also talk about a lot is that really you can come to the cards anytime. Like they're so open to be used in any situation. And I used to be definitely the kind of person who thought like my room should definitely be tidy before I get the cards out, and I should probably brush my hair and like have a really clear question and like, like, because you want to respect the divine and the message that are coming through and stuff. And I but there's just so many ways of doing that, and I now feel much more strongly that what matters is the intention and like the openness to what comes up, and the just, yeah, the openness mainly, and the intention. I think that's most important to me. But I would love to talk about both these things, the idea of ritual and ceremony, and the idea that the tarot can really be like an everyday thing that you can definitely approach with unbrushed hair and with uncertainty about what it actually is that you're asking.
Yes.
Can you speak about that a little bit?
Well, the divine is in the unbrushed hair, and
Yes.
the divine never leaves. Really, the rituals and ceremonies and the creating of space is for us. The divine is always with us. The divine
Mm,
loves us when we're crying and needing
mm,
to pull out the deck because we're heartbroken,
mm,
or um, you know, really tired and just need some comfort, the deck is always there for you, and so's the divine. But yeah, in terms of making it something special for yourself, I have one rule. I have in front of my work, so I have my desk, and I pull cards most mornings, and I have a little altar cloth on. So this is just really simple. I have a little altar cloth on part of the desk. Nothing goes on that cloth except sacred items.
That's
So, I'll have candles or crystals or tarot cards, feathers, things like that on it.
mm,
But I really try hard to keep my pencil off of it.
yeah.
It's just that little simple tiny thing, so that when and it's right in front of me. So I have my computer in front of me and that in front of me. So I'm kind of mixing the mundane and the sacred here, just by having this main tarot altar actually be on my desk where I work, because I want to see it all day.
Mm-hmm.
On some days I'll cleanse myself and I'll say a prayer, and I'll light candles, and I'll make it really sweet and beautiful. And other days, I'm looking at the cards yesterday. I had a really, really busy day yesterday. And I have two cards in front of me, and that's it. That's all I did. I didn't write about them. I have the Student of Water from the Mesquite Tarot and the Two of Wands. And my daily cards, if I have a two-card spread, it's inner and outer. So what do I need to know for my inner world? And what do I need to know in how I approach the outer world? And then if I add a third, it will be, uh, what do I need to know from the divine?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and sometimes I draw them and I'm like, oh, yeah, that makes complete sense. And then by the end of the day, sometimes I'm like, oh, right, okay. Now I understand why I drew death today. How about you? What do you do?
I usually draw a card for the day, and I then also keep it at my desk, which I'm looking at right now. So my desk is a small wooden table with a white cloth on it, and it overlooks the garden. There's a lot of natural light, and then it has a windowsill. And on the windowsill is a pine cone from my land in Portugal. There's a rosemary plant, and then there's a small basket with a couple of things, and then some stones, and my desk. And then I lean the card for the day against the pine cone, and I reflect on it during the day. And so I sometimes, well, most days I try to write about the card, or just kind of use that as a starting point for the morning pages, which I love. So I read
Mm,
the book, The Artist Way, and really, really enjoy the practice of doing morning pages, though I don't always do it. But I think that the tarot has really helped me so much kind of make a start with a blank page. So it's been a
yes.
really important creative tool in that sense. And otherwise, when I read for myself, I also do really small 2 or 3 card spreads. Usually, it's very rare that I do like a 5 or more card reading for myself, because I really like to break it down, and I would prefer to read more often, in smaller ways, looking at specific things, than doing these really huge spreads, because they kind of sometimes feel like a lot of pressure as well. I
Yes.
felt
Yeah.
coming up a lot when I was thinking about, yeah, head readings that I was offering this year. So I offered 7 card spreads, and that felt like very rich for me already. I didn't want to add any more cards to that. But that's a personal preference, and I sometimes read in really messy ways as well. I also have a tarot app, and sometimes when I'm on a train, I just pull a card that way. Or sometimes when I'm meeting a friend and we're just about to say goodbye, I'm like, hey, do you want to draw a card for the day really quickly? And then we do that together, and that feels really nice. But when I read for clients, it's more of a ceremony. So I really clear the space
Yeah.
and make
Yeah.
sure that I am clean, including my head and my hair. And then I light a candle and like ground myself, and do some breath work or a little meditation, and usually have a nice scent in the air, and then I read for clients. And I really love both, and I like totally agree that the sacred is in both, and both are really beautiful and important. Yeah.
Yeah, when I read for clients, I dress up, you know, like
Yeah, for the occasion.
I make sure that yeah, I'm clear.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing. I won't read for clients on a day when I'm really tired or really emotionally tired or anything like that. Like I really want to be a really good vessel.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but you know, I really want to encourage people that, you know, you're reading for yourself,
Mm-hmm.
to just come to the cards as you are, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and I think that another advice, I don't know where I heard this for the first time, but you probably have said this as well, and I think that's so great, is this idea that we shouldn't just come to the cards when we're in despair. I think that's very tempting in the beginning to kind of only come with the really difficult, heavy questions. And I think sometimes it's really nice to be like, hey, I'm having a moment of such joy and celebration. I'm just going to see what card comes up for that. And it kind of deepens the relationship that we have for our decks, because we make these, yeah, we really have the full range of emotions reflected in the cards, which is really great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm. It's nice that you mentioned that we're both reading in very different ways, and I would love to talk about that a little bit more, because when you and I met, I wasn't a tarot reader yet. Well, I was reading for myself, and actually, before committing to studying with you, I did a spread and I shared that with you on Instagram. It was amazing. It was so on point. I should really revisit that
Yeah.
spread.
Yeah.
Sometimes I really love recreating spreads that I've done a while ago, and to see, what other layers of meaning I see now. But anyway, so I would say that you've really been someone who's been incredibly instrumental in helping me find the confidence to be a tarot reader. And I love this work with all my heart now. And it's interesting that you and I work in really different ways. So maybe can you tell us a little bit more about like what kind of readings you enjoy doing, and what is your approach? Like, what is your jam?
um, yeah, so I started by reading for friends in my like living room and bedroom and stuff, and we would just pick cards. There's a spread I love that you actually pick the cards face up, and the cards were really just a way for us to kind of talk, you know, about deeper things. Um, and then when I decided to start reading professionally, it was one of those things that I had always wanted to do, but I don't really know what had stopped me.
Mm-hmm.
And it got to the point where I couldn't not do it.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I started by doing written readings.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I'm a writer, so it seemed to make sense to do the written readings. And I would do things like I would journey before doing the reading. So I would pull the cards, I would journey, and then I would do the reading and write what I saw and experienced. Um, and then I made a decision this last year that I was only going to do video readings. Um, and part of it was to form a deeper connection with people, so that I'm talking, you know, I'm we're even though we're not in the same room, because I'm doing online readings, I find that I really wanted to bring that deeper connection in with people. And I you know, I pull cards and I talk about what message I'm receiving, and it really helped me grow as a reader and grow as an intuitive reader to start doing that, because there's no stopping and pausing, there's no looking anything up. It's literally just
Mm-hmm.
grounding, being present, pulling the cards, and allowing any fumbles to be okay. And
Mm-hmm.
you know, um, and it's been the response that I've received for the readings have been really positive, which has been very encouraging, that this was a good choice to
Mm-hmm.
move from written to video. But that was just my choice. I've received written, like, as you know, I've received written readings, I've received video readings, I've received, you know, you did a really beautiful New Year reading for me. Your, you know, you do audio readings. It's so perfect for you. It's
Thank
just,
you.
I can't even imagine anything more perfect, right? And so, so it's, I think as a reader, it's important to get readings too, right? Where you can kind of get a feeling for all the different ways that you can use the cards to connect with people.
Yeah, yeah, totally. I received a written reading, sorry, a written reading from you as well, and I really loved that it was so well made, and like you know, the PDF was so beautiful in itself. And I mean, I've said this to you many times, but I really want everyone to hear it. Your graphics are just so incredible. As a side note, you just have such a beautiful eye for graphics and colors, and so I really love the written reading a lot. But I hear what you're saying, and I think there's a really deep connection that can come through videos as well. And for some people it's really nice to see our face expression and, you know, see the process of like drawing the cards and the shuffling and all of that can be really cool as well. So yeah, I love that. Yeah, I've done written readings very briefly at the beginning of last year and very quickly hated it. Like I really had like this knot in my tummy when I received an email with the request for a written reading. I was like, oh no. And it's so weird because I am very much a writer, and I just, that wasn't really flowing for me. And now I'm mainly offering audio recorded readings, which I really enjoy because it means that for me at least, I'm kind of, when I'm just using my voice, I'm kind of in a different space. And I also really love receiving audio readings, or sometimes I will receive a video one and not actually look at the screen and just listen because I feel like it's less sensory input, and I like that. And the other thing that I feel is important to me at the moment is to offer journaling prompts for each of the cards as well. So these are just invitation, and not everyone does them, but I feel that brings a sense of really co-creating the reading with the person to me, which I enjoy. And then I like to bring in some plant magic. So usually I will recommend a plant to work with, or even make like a little ritual suggestion that I like. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
I'm working with Rose.
Yes, that's great. Oh, that's beautiful.
Because
I love
I mean, it's so funny because it was something that I had intended on, and then when you did the reading for me, it was like roses.
that. Yes. Yay, that's beautiful. So I would love, I think that you have such a great way to teach the tarot as well. And one thing that we talk a lot is this idea that you really don't have to know all the cards by heart to create a great reading. And I want to admit before, you know, just so that no one feels shamed in that approach, I felt the same. I thought that, you know, I was kind of dabbling with the cards and like making my own spreads. But in the beginning, in my imagination, I really thought that the magic would only really come once I know all the meanings. And I still, with every new deck that comes into my life, or with every time I really open my mind to reading, see new things all the time, or like even radically different things. I can't remember one thing. Oh yeah, the Two of Wands came up for me today, and the interpretation in the book for the next word tarot was so wildly different than anything that I had ever read or saw myself. And I was like blown away, blown away. And it just kind of really brought it home to me that there would have been no point necessarily for me to um, really kind of get the keywords down or anything like that at the beginning. However, if that's someone's style of learning, I wouldn't say that that's wrong either. I'm just saying there's so much beauty in the intuitive reading. I said way more than I wanted to say. I actually wanted to give it over to you. Sorry. I have such a funny way of asking questions in a really long-winded way sometimes. Anyway, so handing it over to you, like what is your approach in terms of learning meanings versus using your intuition?
So I'm an academic, right?
Mhm.
So in a lot of ways, I've had to unlearn stuff
Mhm.
in order to read intuitively. So I see value in both. And one of the things that like I think we're all different, right? And so I totally celebrate any way into the tarot. Like, for me, I actually did come into the tarot kind of with a bit of both. But definitely interested in the meanings. And then yeah, it was a matter of unlearning. And I think, in a way, not knowing is so amazing
Mhm.
because like you can just really see what you see and
Mhm.
not have anything get in the way. And there's a kind of empowerment in that as well, in saying, you know what, I don't need to know the meanings in order to read. So like in my school, the first year I've set it up so that we don't actually even look at the meanings until like the fifth month
Mhm.
year. So it's there because I think it also adds a layer of, and it adds layers, right? So when you
Mhm.
get interested in tarot, it's, I think, pretty natural to want to
Mhm.
know.
Yeah.
So what's going on with the magician? Why are those? Why are the different symbols there? And like, what do the colors mean? And I'm also a bit of a history, cultural meaning history geek, where I'm really interested in how the meanings have shifted and changed, right?
Mhm.
So when you're talking about the next world tarot, that from I don't have the deck yet, but been I have been waiting for that deck for 2 years, I think.
Yeah.
Um,
The soft spot, isn't it?
so the kind of cultural history person in me is like, this is so absolutely fascinating
Mhm.
that we had this high priestess card in the Renaissance time, in Renaissance period, when female leadership was not a thing at all. That's revolutionary, really. How interesting is that? And then we're going into now, and to seeing all the different ways that people are reimagining the decks. So that's where I get really interested in the meanings. Is so okay. So what does the Two of Wands mean to you? How can that be reimagined? So it's exciting to know the meanings, I think, because it just adds layers. But in terms of reading, no, don't, you don't need to know them at all. Like,
Mhm.
just start. Um, but yeah, it's definitely been a period of unlearning. And I'm really good friends with Monica Garcia.
Mhm.
We've done a couple of Tea and Tarot episodes on YouTube. And both of us, she's also, um, I don't know if she finds herself as a recovering academic or not, but um, we both have PhDs, and so I think we kind of were both looking at the books, and around the same time, we were both kind of realizing like we need to put the book away. And a big part of that was the wild unknown, actually, because the wild unknown, when I first got it, I'm like, what? How am I supposed to read this? I don't know. But it was actually such a gift because it forced me into intuitive reading.
Mhm.
And I'm really, really, really grateful for it.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
much more can happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Does
Totally.
that make sense?
Yeah. That makes absolutely. Yeah. Totally. It does. What would you advise to someone? So, say someone is like, okay, I can be really open and I'm doing it, want to trust my intuition. I don't know all the meanings yet. I have a sense a little bit of symbols and stuff. And they turn the cards and they just feel overwhelmed. Like, where would you say people can make a start with their interpretations?
So, one thing to do is to just describe the card.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm looking at this student of water right now, and I'm seeing a figure
Mm-hmm.
standing in a pool of like waves. Looks like either a big lake or an ocean with a cup outstretched. And so that's the beginning, to just start writing or start talking, like what do you see? It feels, how do you feel? It kind of feels calm, but then there's also some waves coming in, almost like an offering that she's holding this cup out. And one thing that I find really helpful if there is a figure in the deck is to take the posture of the figure.
Mm.
So what does it feel like to you to hold your arms out?
Mm.
And then you can actually like there's something about kind of embodying the card that
Mhm.
can really help you understand what's happening, and really to just what comes up for you, you know um,
Mhm.
especially when you're reading for yourself, what comes up for you. Do you feel calmed by this water, or kind of overwhelmed by it, like, oh, these waves are coming, and then just go from there. But really
Mhm.
just start with what you see, and then
Mhm.
how you feel, include your whole body in that.
Mm.
And and normally when people are given permission to just say, oh, you mean I don't need to look at the book and I don't need to know what this means,
Mhm.
um, then it means exactly what it's meant to mean in that moment.
Mm. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah. I needed to hear that again, I think. Yeah. Something I also love to do, sometimes my brain wants some structure. And so I've had evenings where I didn't want to do a reading for myself, but I wanted to touch my cards and learn and like look at them and go deeper. And so I would sometimes spread the whole deck out and organize it just really by elements and numbers. And then I would see how the different elements have their own journeys from 1 to 10 and then through the family. I would look at the fool and the archetypes and really kind of imagine myself being the fool, meeting all these different characters and archetypes, and that felt really helpful as well. And now that I have a few more decks, sometimes when I'm struggling with a specific card, I pull it out of the different decks. So say 4 of
Yeah.
one, and then I take it out of different decks, and I really look at it from different angles and see the artistic interpretations and look for similarities and differences, and that can be really illuminating as well, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Before we started recording, I was just talking about how I was looking at all the lovers cards and all the
Mm.
different ways that
Mm.
the lovers card, and like we're talking about Next World Tarot, that lovers card is like
Whoa.
fine. So she looks like me, which is really exciting too, right? Because I'm like, I never see myself in decks. So like I'm a larger woman. And so she's a big woman and she's standing naked at a mirror and loving herself. And I'm just like, oh my God.
Mm.
Okay, yeah, you got me.
Yeah.
Just that word. I don't even care what the rest of the deck looks like. I think that's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
good.
I would love to get a print of that card in particular. It's so beautiful. Yeah. Vanessa, I don't want to keep you captured too long, if that's an expression. But I would love, I mean, okay. I know it's always hard to share about our own work, so I will do a little bit of that. But I would just say that I'm so excited for the things that you have coming up this year. I've been in your priestess training for the second year now, and I really love it so much. It's an incredible community, and I can't wait to see who else is going to join us this year. But also, you're running a tarot month in February, and so people can join that. That's going to be free. And then you are starting, I'm like, ooh, drum roll. You are starting a 3-year power school, and I've been a little bit involved in kind of the behind the scenes of that coming together, and I'm just so incredibly excited about it. I will take it myself, and I'm just, yeah, I'm so excited. So can you tell us a little bit more about that, and where can people find out more, and what is kind of the first step to get involved?
Yeah, thank you. So you can find me at vanessasage.com.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of where everything is. So you just look up tarot and there it's there, it's there. And so yeah, right now in like beginning of March is tarot school starting. So the first year is tarot intuitive.
Mm-hmm.
And then we really just work on really trusting ourselves, working on the intuition. No books for the first 5 months. Um, really kind of bringing in that ritual and ceremony into the cards, into your life, using the cards as a tool to connect with your soul.
Mm-hmm.
And then towards the end, I'm really excited about, we're going to be looking at stones and plants and um, the fae and the elements and seasons, and working with divination in those realms
Mm-hmm.
as well. So I'm really excited about that. And then the future years are um, tarot, soul guide, and tarot healer. And so that's really just going deeper and using the tarot for any soul work that you're doing for yourself or for others. And then really using it as a tool, as a healer, and looking at some of the kind of particular things that come up when you are a healer. So yeah, it wanted to be 3 years. That I drew some cards. It asked to be 3 years, and it kind of blew me away that this is what needed to happen. But I'm really excited about it. And then I'm also, yeah, in February, it's Tarot Love Month. We'll be doing prompts, and there's also the week of Valentine's. We're going to also, um, there's going to be a whole Tarot Love week, meditations and journeys and visualizations, and a live call and everything like that. And that's all totally free
Mm-hmm.
for people who just want to kind of dip their toes in
Mm-hmm.
and love on the tarot for a while.
Yes. And so people can sign up for that on vanessasage.com as well. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. And then they should follow you on Instagram as well. I highly recommend that. It's Vanessa Sage, right?
It's Vanessa Sage Life right
Oh,
now.
Vanessa Sage
Yeah.
Life. Okay. Yeah.
Sometimes I think about just changing it to Vanessa Sage, but it's
Yeah.
Vanessa Sage Life.
Okay, good. That's great. Good.
But if you're listening to this in a year, then it might be.
You never know. It's the magic of podcasting, isn't it? One thing I wanted to add to the tarot school, because that's something that was really important to me when I joined, is that the different levels really feel very self-contained. So I think I was, when you first mentioned to me that it's going to be 3 years, I was like, whoa, that's such a big commitment. And I felt fascinated and scared at the same time. And mainly my absolute feeling is that yes, like committing to something for 3 years is so beautiful, and I love this slow and steady pace that you're creating and this big container that you're creating for the people taking the program, because I love short courses. Sometimes we need like a burst of inspiration and we just dedicate a season to something. But I feel really ready at the moment to commit to things for a longer period of time. And I have known you for some years now, and I know how you work and teach. And so I'm really excited to just make this long-term commitment to my own practice right now. And I also at the same time feel that just taking 1 year is totally fine, and we can see how it goes after that, and that is really beautiful as well. So yeah.
Absolutely. Um, when you there's no sense that you need to do all 3 years.
Yeah.
Just to be transparent, that's what's happening. Like that's what the school is.
Yes.
Um, and yeah, I think it really is about having a deepening your relationship with the cards. And in my experience, that's been a lifelong passion. I don't see it going anywhere anytime soon.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, to have that container and to have a community of people who also have that passion, um, and just a really soft, gentle space.
Mm-hmm.
Pacing is really, really gentle. So it's not about overwhelming or anything like that. And there'll also be live community gatherings as well, so that, you know, we can see each other and be,
Yes,
yeah.
I can't wait. Yay. Thank you so much, Vanessa. Thank you so much for making time to speak to us and to share so much about your practice and your inspiration and your experience, which you have so much of. I am really excited for the school to start, and I'm really excited to share this episode on such a special day for the blue moon. Thank,
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's
thank
always a
you.
pleasure.